What's up, fellas? So I thought what I would do is start a little, almost like a little mini series, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 videos on firearms, air guns, projectile throwing devices. I've recently acquired a new slingshot. I'm having a ball with that thing, so maybe we'll talk a little bit about that. I also acquired recently a new holstering system. So I thought what we'd do is let's start off with that, and I'll tell you a little bit about why I bought it, how I bought it, what my opinion is, so forth, and then we'll move on from there. Okay, my everyday carry is a Glock Model 19 Generation 5. Mag has been removed. We have no ammunition in this weapon at all. And the holstering system that I purchased is designed around this particular gun. You can get many other solutions, I guess you might say, depending on the gun it is that we're talking about. However, this is the one that I'm designed for currently. I have other guns, and I probably might expand on that a little bit, so we'll see how that all goes. So, with that said, let's take a look at the Aliengear ShapeShifter holster system. Okay, regarding the subject, I would consider myself an intermediate gun owner, meaning that I know a fair amount. I'm not grubbing through the muck underneath barbed wire, with the war paint on and everything every weekend. I don't do that, but if you do that, good on you, right? That's cool. We need our warriors to help stabilize things. So I put myself sort of in the middle, right? I know a good bit, but I don't know everything, and I'm still learning, and I'm a reasonable shot. I'm not an excellent shot, but definitely know how to handle the weapons. So, my first firearm was purchased back in early 80s, and I've bought and sold since then, and I have a fair arsenal, I guess you might say. Nothing over the top or anything, but they suit my needs. I'm not a collector of sorts. The guns that I own are tools, and I see them as purely as that. Some of them are prettier than others. Some of them I wouldn't really want to bang around necessarily. However, you take the Glock, for example, the Model 19, and as far as I'm concerned, this is a tool, and tools get banged up, and that's how this is my everyday carry. Okay, I'm not going to do an unboxing. I didn't really feel as though that was necessary. There's been plenty of guys who have taken the shapeshifter kit and done the unboxing, right? And then gone through sort of this laborious process of just explaining how to put things together and how to take it apart. I don't really want to do that. Really what I want to do is kind of hit the highlights and then put the holsters on and see how they look. I'm 6'1", about 170 pounds. In addition to the base kit, what I did was I bought a set of clips that are represented right here. I believe these are the ones that come with, possibly, yeah, these come with, and then these two, and then these two on this inside the waistband option were purchased for an additional $8. I also bought a holster pouch from them. It can be worn inside or outside the waistband. So there's that dude, and it's got active retention or adjustable retention that you can take care of. What you can do with this thing is 5 different configurations. So there are 2 outside the waistband, there are 2 inside the waistband, then there is an option to install to something, say, rigid, right? Like, say, a wall or a cabinet or something next to your bed or even in your car. Okay, so let's look at the full outside the waistband solution. It is the only mounting that requires both halves of the shell. This thing splits in half, right? 1 half, 2 halves. And you use this through various means to assemble whatever solution it is that you're looking for. You can see that we've got a retention here, and in fact you must depress this thumb release in order to unholster the gun. The male piece goes into the female piece, which is what I'm going to do and mount to my belt. And what I did was, when I ordered this, I believe it was an upcharge, as best I recall, is I got the soft version. There's a rigid version here, and they say, quote unquote, for comfort. Okay, I had no idea, right? But I went ahead and did that. So let me put this on my belt and let's take a look at it. For the option of slipping your belt through this, you have an alternate option, which is this scary alien guy, right? It actually goes in upside down, and it mounts to the actual retention itself, sort of like this, right? So you remove the 4 screws, you chunk that on there. I have tried this thing. It's very aggressive, right? Very, very aggressive. So in theory, you would just slide this on rather than having to run your belt through it. And this would go around your hip, right? It's sort of form-fitted like that. It works, right? But I just went with the belt option. It seems to make more sense to me. Okay, here's the first solution. It's quite a bit further out than any of the other solutions, clearly, right? And as I mentioned, it has this thumb release on it. When I practice with this, when my focus is entirely on the holster itself, it's awesome. It really retains the gun really, really well. And listen, okay, so it's not going to come out. It doesn't come out. Problem is, when I've done a fast draw on this thing, knowing that this thing is retained with this thumb, I've actually forgotten to do that, right? So I'm doing this, right? Oh, yeah, right. I remember now. I got to do the thumb thing, right? So I'm not really sure that, for me anyway, I don't think it's a problem with the holster necessarily. However, it can be a problem, right? And I'm not exactly sure, other than just pure training muscle memory, of how you get around that. It's not a problem with the holster, like I said. It's a problem sort of with me, right? So you can adjust cants with this thing, and whenever I do adjustments with this thing, I do take the firearm out. I just don't want this thing to land on the ground. It's fairly easy to do, right? So you push in, there's a little catch here, and you push it in, and you can remove, and then you can rotate. Okay, so there's, we're at 3 o'clock right here, and we were like, what is that, FBI mode? So stick that thing in like that if you prefer. So that works. See, I go to remove the gun and I can't get it out because I forgot about the thumb release, right? So there's a perfect example of that. So if you really want to get aggressive with a cant on it, that's probably like the next setup, right? And make sure that this little clip is fully out after you snap this thing in, or else that thing's going to fall off, right? So, okay, so there's that, right? That's a little awkward. It's a little too far forward for me. This is weird, right? Maybe if it was at 4 o'clock, it might be better. If I was going to cross draw and I brought and canted over this way, that might work a little bit better if you want to, if you want this having a gun baby out here, right? That's what that would look like. So that's solution number one. As I mentioned, there is this rigid mount for the gun in a house, in a car, something like that. Got to drill 4 holes, right? So I have no intentions of drilling 4 holes in my truck, at least not the interior pieces, unless I can find some way to do that. But the two accept, right? So you could, in theory, mount this in various situations like this, and you would have your gun at the ready with the thumb release on it, right? Okay, I've taken the 2 shell pieces, removed the one with the thumb release on it. That leaves me with this. I attach this to this pad with this now new trigger guard. Has to go on. Also accept your belt, right? So it's going to be on either side of it. And that is my preferred carry method. Therefore, this solution is showing a little bit more wear than anything else that we're going to talk about here. So let me put it together. I'll strap it on, see what it looks like. Also want to note on the pad too is that I can adjust the cant on this, and I've already done that, right? So it gives it a little bit more of a forward face. So this is still outside the waistband. It's just going to be a lot closer in, but I adjusted the cants as far forward as it will go. The solution is the hardest to deal with in my opinion. Okay, so I've installed it and I've gotten these 2 belt loops on here. And the reason why is that right down in here, when I take this little retainer nut and I try and get this thing on, there's just not enough room for your fingers, right? It's actually easier to get it on than it is to take it off. And in fact, I've pretty much just given up trying to get it off with my fingers. I use a little pair of needle nose and give it a twist because I can't get my fingers in there. So that's a bit problematic. I will also say too is now watch my retention on this, okay? So with both clamshells assembled together, you have really good retention. With the half shell, it's quite a bit different. Okay, so watch this. This is already set up, keeping in mind, right? Watch, that comes right out, right? If I were to tip this thing upside down and just let it go, right? Yeah, see, it comes out. The retention is actually adjusted with it on your body. Your body adds to the drag that's actually on the gun, so you need to be aware of that. I also point out too is that I believe that the trigger
safety methods that they've used in the design to protect the trigger, because I'm carrying condition 0, right? The thing's ready to rock and roll, and that trigger has got to be absolutely dead nuts on, and without all the time, 100%, right? I think that's done really, really well. However, you have to be aware retention is on the body, okay? And that's adjusted through this 1/4-inch square drive here. Now, your little nuts and so forth that you use to keep this thing all together and whatnot, they all actually double as a wrench. I don't mess with that too much. I just go over to my toolbox, right, and I grab a driver, and that's how I've done the retention in the past. As I mentioned, this is the way I normally carry, and you can see it's starting to take on this kind of this weird bend to it. So, all right, let me strap it on and we'll see what we got.
Okay, with this system, this is option number 2, is my preferred carry method. I'm at 3 o'clock. I've come way in, right? It's much tighter. Do I print on my shirt? Well, yeah, I do, right? But in the great state of Texas, we do things a little bit differently here, right? We don't have CCW, which means I have to conceal my weapon. I don't have to do that, right? License to carry, LTC, is what we have. So if you want to walk in with a cannon hanging off the side of you, right, and you feel comfortable doing that, go to Home Depot, go to McDonald's, whatever, you can do that. If you're sort of into more subtlety, let's just say, right, you might want to bring this in a little bit, get you a compact gun or a subcompact, something that's a little more discreet, okay? And that's my preference here. So we've come way in. I've got a compact gun on here. Now watch the retention, okay? So we talked about that. I've not adjusted this at all. No adjustments have been made. I am wearing a gun belt. It's 511 if that matters, okay? So watch this. So if I draw, I have retention, right? I do. It just doesn't click like you would normally maybe expect it to, right? So there's all the driven home. Now it's out, right? So can I draw on that? Well, sure, right? It is retained, and my body is acting as a part of the retention system, and that seems to work actually quite well. It really surprised me when I first got this. I was like, uh-oh, we got a problem, right? This gun's not going to stay in. But as soon as I put it on and started messing with it, it's okay. So there we go. Option number 2. Now the shirt's a little bit tight, right? Does it print? You betcha it does, right? Big time. Do I care about that? Not so much. It's LTC, right? We can carry any way we want here in Texas. I don't care if I print. I'm not actively trying to do that, but I'm also not actively trying to absolutely hide this thing. And if I don't hide it, it's not a problem.
So now we're going to go to the inside the waistband. Option number would be 3. As I mentioned, I purchased additional clips. I have experimented with this kind. What I'm going to do is I'm going to remove this and try one of the other clips because I actually haven't tried them yet. So I'm going to go full on. I'm going to really live on the edge here. So I'm going to use this fully enclosed over the belt type of retention. So I don't yet know what my preference is with the actual height of the weapon inside my waistband. So I'm just going to experiment a little bit. I'll probably just choose the middle one because I don't normally carry like this. I just find it to be really, really weird, right? I don't care for it. So appendix would win over this if I was going to go inside the waistband for sure. But let's try this new clip and see how it looks. I can also adjust the cant here, and it's actually set up in its default setting right here. You can see that it's actually in the center top and bottom, right? So if I wanted to, I'd just take an Allen wrench and twist that back and forth, whatever it is that my preference is. So we've talked about trigger guards and we talked about retention, remember? So there's the first option, which was the thumb deal, right? There was outside the waistband number 2, tucked in, the trigger guard. Where is this? Here it is, right? There's that, right? So you do a little bit of monkeying with this thing, right? And if you're not really a tinkerer, right? If you have trouble screwing in a light bulb, I don't know if this system would be for you. I'm a tinkerer, right? I mean, look, I use tools, I take things apart, I do all that stuff. It's not a problem for me. I will say that when I opened the box, I went, oh man, there's a lot of parts here. And you can't just you just can't strap this on. You got to read the manual, right? You got to figure out how this works. That being said, now that I've gone through this a number of times and mucked with all this stuff, I'm getting pretty proficient at it, and I don't need to read the manual. I can see the parts. There are a lot of parts out here. There must be 15, 20 parts sitting in front of me, including a gun that I have to sort of manage. All right, when I carry inside the waistband, I don't button my pants up. It's too tight, right? Well, I could buy bigger pants, but, you know, I don't want, you know, I don't want like 3 or 4 sizes bigger so I can carry my gun, right? And then the rest of the time when I'm carrying in some alternate configuration, or I'm not carrying at all, I'm at work or something, right, with people in an office environment, you know, I don't want to, you know, have like pants that are like, you know, fit a butt that's about this big and my butt's this big, right, and you know, just crank down on everything. I don't want that. So what I do is allow the belt to do the work for me, right? But I'm going to leave my top button undone. So here goes. Here's how this thing kind of rock and rolls, right? All right, here we go. Okay, so we got this. You guys see this? You know, got a gun baby going on here again. That's why I don't like this. Threading the needle. Hang on, honey. I'll be ready in a minute to go out to dinner. What are you doing? Well, I'm protecting this, baby. Don't you worry about a thing. Alright, so button does not get done, especially if I'm going to go out to eat, man. Next thing you know, I can't fit any more food in because my gun is too tight. Okay. Cool. Got this little bit of a belly working here after I broke my knee and quit doing cardio. It's almost back together. Okay. All right. Here we go. Not too bad. Prefer appendix over this solution. Okay, appendix carry. This should look familiar to you. It is also very similar to the way outside the waistband option number 2, tight and close, actually looks. However, what you do is you do your bits and pieces and you change them out and you add a belt clip that looks something like this. Now, this is really strange. I want to point this out. Here is the other belt. Let's get these oriented properly like that. One of these is small, one of these is large. Now, you choose which one it is, and they're actually labeled. They're stamped on the back. One's big, one's small, right? Okay, they're exactly the same, right? I don't know what the heck is going on here. One may be like 2 or 3 millimeters shorter here than the other. I've just pored over these to try and figure out what the difference is. I can't find it, right? But they're labeled differently. Different SKU. Okay, appendix carry is assembled. Now we're going to put this thing on. Is this the large or the small clip? I don't know. It doesn't really matter, right? They're both exactly the same, so who cares? I would say it's also the simplest of all the options that you have to deal with here. The fewer parts, the fewer pieces, the fewer installation, the less difficulty to actually put this on. Okay, so let's get around here before my pants fall off because I'm not buttoned up. Couldn't clip this over the belt if you wanted to. It's just easier just to slide it through, right? All right, get in there, boys. Just happy. All right, I have another gun baby. Right, I could maybe do my pants up. I don't really want to, just unnecessarily so. Alright, so there's that guy. So we lean back, careful about the the family jewels, and we're ready to rock. Right? A little bit of printing. Again, it's a tight shirt. You know, it's Texas. Who cares? Right?
Thanks for watching. Let me know what you think in the comments. Boom. Like me, subscribe. Thanks.
It mounts with this belt through this fully enclosed style of whoa. You know, that's quite a bit of different. Remember, we talked about trigger guards, right? And retain. I'm getting pretty proficient at it, and I don't need to read the manual. I can see the parts.